All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Thursday, June 4th, 2023 meeting of the Distressed Unit Appeal Board. We have a short meeting today and then an executive session to follow. We have just a few items today that we'll cover. Before we get started, I'll note that we will take public comment as is our custom. And so if you haven't had a chance to sign up, please send a message quickly to Pete or Jessica through the public system. Before we turn to that, we will approve our minutes or we will consider our minutes from the May 4th, 2023 and May 16th meetings. We had a public meeting on the 4th and an executive session on the 16th. Those are circulated in advance. Are there any comments or corrections to those minutes? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the minutes from the public meeting of May 4th and the executive session of May 16th as drafted.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Minutes are adopted. We'll turn now to public comment. We have Mrs. Lavetta Tyndall here with us in person. Ms. Tyndall, Mrs. Tyndall.
Thank you and good afternoon to everyone. I am Mrs. Lavetta Tyndall, a voting and tax-paying citizen of the great city of Gary, Indiana. Questions remain, Mr. McAdam, to which I would appreciate you getting answered today by Manager McNulty. How many make up the 2023 graduating class of Westside Leadership Academy? How many students will receive certificates of attendance? What's the cohort number of Westside Leadership Academy 2023 graduating class? What training in diversity, equity, and justice is offered and required to be completed by all administration and staff of the Gary Community School Corporation? Please acknowledge that the continuation of MGT holding head administration positions in the Gary Community School Corporation is not beneficial. I repeat, is not beneficial to our Gary students, and we think neither is DUAB. This year, I'm wondering, and I'm wondering if you're aware of, or anyone on the board is aware of, the yearbook. Are the yearbook pictures of 2023 graduates better than those of 2022 that look like this? An animal with a cap on? Those are pictures that were above the names of graduating students in our 2022 yearbook. What proof reporting do you require that shows success standards are followed by Gary teachers? What records do you receive assuring that each challenged child has an IEP? And what do you do about students who do not have an IEP and should have? What improvements should we expect from the new Gary Community School Corporation manager? For instance, timely bus transportation, higher than 7.7% proficiency in ELA, higher than 3% proficiency in math, higher than 0% in math and ELA at the Beverage School System, Beverage Elementary School. I'd like to know, we really don't have much information about this gentleman that's replacing our current manager. Will there be an orientation and introduction reception for him to let us know what's going on with him and what we can expect from him. What's his view of parents? What's his view of parental involvement in the child's education, of those children's education? Mr. McAdam,
Ms. Stindle, if you could.
thank you. Gary's ongoing position is, and I want to stress this, no more MGT. This gentleman coming in just to have a name in the place of the manager is not impressive and does not meet the bill for helping our schools advance. No more MGT, no more DUAB. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Stindle. Up next, we do have Ms. Tracy Coleman joining us by phone. Ms. Coleman, can you hear us?
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me well?
Yes, please go ahead.
I would like to start off asking that DUAB send some type of directive to Eric Parrish, Wolverton, the new MGT people, to go ahead and get a complete composite photo of the class of 2022. This was something that parents purchased. Evidently, the photography company had an accident where they damaged the panoramic photo, but their resolution was unacceptable because the students who graduated from Westside Leadership Academy, they deserve to have a composite photo where they could see the pictures of everyone who graduated with their names. I submitted information to Pete Miller with the quote on there are different photography companies that can do it. And so I would ask that this be done. The next thing I will ask is about the swimming pool. It is very important that a plan be done to have it fixed. Since MGT cannot do it, I would ask that DUAB reach out to Indiana University, not only for assistance with academics, but also assistance with getting the swimming pool fixed and getting a curriculum. I used to be a park ranger with Indiana Dunes National Park. So our community, our children in Gary are surrounded by water. There's Lake Michigan, Lake Etta, Calumet River. And statistics shows that 64% of African Americans have few to no swimming skills. African American children ages 5 to 19 drown in swimming pools at rates 5.5 times higher than Caucasian children in the same age range. So getting that swimming pool up and running is very important. It's not just cosmetics. You have the opportunity to save lives in Gary, that there are 54 parks in Gary. None of these parks have one swimming pool. The YWCA, their swimming pool is often not working. So once again, since MGT cannot do it, please reach out to Indiana University for help with academics and swimming. Also, I'm concerned about comments made with Dr. Paige McNulty. She was on a radio program and was indicating that the radio host got beat up on his own radio, and that is why he's with the school system, and that she's leaving now and she could say what she wants. Her comments were disrespectful and condescending. Many emergency managers went on WLTH and they were willing to take tough questions from the community, and they did not run from that. And so I would ask that DUAB do something to reprimand her on that conduct. Also, with the transition of local control, I would just once again thank Representative Thompson for his continued effort with the Indiana General Assembly to make a transition. But I would ask with the influx of, well, with the number of people leaving with MGT and the state of flux with the district, there's an urgency not only to get that board in place, but make it a governing body, because once again, there's this instability that's causing stress with our children and our community. So MGT really needs to go, and we need our local control. And the last thing that I would like to leave with DUAB is that when I looked at the audit, there's something that I'm very concerned about, and that adverse opinion on U.S. generally accepting accounting principles, where it's stated in the audit, in our opinion, because of the significance of the matter discussed and the basis for adverse and unmodified opinion section of our report, the financial statement referred to above does not present fairly the financial position and results of operations of the school corporation as of June 30th, 2022, in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. It's very crucial that MGT and Nicole Wolverton and the COOs aren't giving us reports that the community cannot understand, which has been the framework when we deal with URSA money, when we deal with federal funds, when we're dealing with what are the operational expenses of these buildings. And the fact that this audit basically points out when you're not using generally accepting accounting principles, that is a problem. So once again, I would just ask, restore local control. We see the instability. We see the challenges that this community has to help our children academically. And lastly, forgiving that debt, because whoever that
Ms.
new
Coleman,
board and
if you could please
superintendent,
conclude your comments.
I'll wrap it up. We're still pushing to forgive the debt, because whoever that new board and superintendent coming in, they're gonna need the resources to make sure that our children have what they need to succeed academically, socially, emotionally. Thank you for your time and have a great day.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Since we have the state auditor examiner with us, maybe you can comment on that note.
Again, it's actually common language. It's put in all non-GAAP based reports. If you don't present your statement in a GAAP-based format, which is not uncommon for school corporations, it's not uncommon for cities and towns, it's uncommon for any government in entity in Indiana. You have to state that it's not in accordance with that, but then later on down, it states that it is in accordance with a cash basis, which is the standard that is the minimum standard in Indiana. For government reporting purposes, for grants, they report theirs based on cash. So the information in there, the cash, the federal reports are all reported that way to the federal government in the cash-based format.
So bottom line, it's acceptable.
It is acceptable.
Thank you. All right, well, that concludes our public comment. Those are the individuals we had signed up to testify today. We do have an update on the Gary Community School Corporation. We have Mr. Eric Parrish here from the MGT team to speak to that. You've seen a number of leadership changes and announcements from the district, and Mr. Parrish is here to talk about those with us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. McAdam. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
All right, great. Yes, announcing this week that actually a couple weeks ago we had the forum this week that Dr. McNulty has resigned from both MGT and Gary Community Schools as the manager. And pleased to introduce two new members of the team today, Dr. Mike Razor and Ms. Davis Snelson. And I'm going to take just a couple minutes to introduce them to DUAB and then turn it over to them to say a brief statement to the board. Dr. Mike Razor has spent more than 27 years positively impacting the lives of children as a teacher, coach, assistant principal, district executive, and consultant. Mike was Chief Operations Officer of one of the nation's largest school districts, that's Louisville, Kentucky. While in Louisville, Dr. Razor oversaw human resources, labor management, information technology, transportation, facilities, safety and security, and nutrition. As an executive at MGT, Dr. Razor provides school districts and colleges nationwide guidance and direction to operate as effectively as possible. Dr. Razor holds 5 degrees from 3 different universities, most notably a PhD from Indiana State University, where his doctoral research identified the characteristics of highly effective school leaders, and also has a graduate business degree from The Ohio State University. But wait, there's more. He's a certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, alumni of Leadership Louisville, Harvard University's National Institute for Urban School Leaders and Public Education Leadership Project, University of Virginia's Turnaround Leadership Program, Georgetown University's Executive Management Program, and the Walt Disney Institute's Disney Approach to Leadership Excellence. Also with us is Mavis Snelson, who has more than a dozen years positively impacting the lives of children as a teacher, instructor, administrator, and consultant. Mavis has a comprehensive education background, including serving as a Teach for America middle school math teacher, as an instructor in Hong Kong, and as a program evaluator with Boston Public Schools. With Ed Directions, now part of MGT, she has provided strategic planning, continuous improvement, and customized professional learning and coaching supports for multi-year turnaround projects with 9 schools in 4 school districts across the U.S. Additionally, Mavis has provided targeted on-site leadership and instructional support to historically underperforming schools in Utah, Illinois, Ohio, Tennessee, and North Dakota. Mavis holds a master's degree in education policy and management from Harvard Graduate School of Education and a Bachelor of Arts degree in urban studies from the University of Pennsylvania. I am pleased to introduce both of these individuals to the board and the greater Gary Community School community, as we did Tuesday night in the forum, and to the board today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mike and then Mavis to say a few words.
First of all, this is a very great honor for me to be in this position. I am extremely pleased with many of the facets that I have already found on the ground. Mavis and I have visited all of the schools, all of the principals, have had several meetings with central office staff, and are looking forward to the next year to help Gary Community Schools exit distressed unit status. Mavis and I have already developed a very good team approach where I'm going to be mainly focusing on business operations and finance. Mavis is going to take a laser-like approach to teaching and learning. I'll turn it over to Mavis, and again, look forward to working with you for the next year.
Thanks, Mike. I'll echo what he said. It's wonderful to be here. It's an honor to be able to serve the Gary community. We've been nothing but pleased and excited by what we've found in Gary over the past month. There really is an incredible team and a lot of momentum moving in the right direction, and we're excited to do that, to really sit on learning, get some academic gains, and prepare the district to move over to a new board next year. Thank you all, and I look forward to it.
Well, thank you. We're glad to have you both on board. We've gotten to work with you already a little bit up to this point, and it's been a pleasure and a joy. And we're glad that you're diving in head first there to Gary Schools. I know there's a lot of work to do. There's a busy year ahead as we prepare for transition back to the community, and we thank you for your willingness to serve, your willingness to relocate yourselves to the Gary area so that you can be available on a regular basis. And we're thankful for the work that you've done and the work you're going to do. So we're glad to have you on board and appreciate you being here today. I do want to take a moment just to recognize Dr. McNulty. She wasn't able to join us today, but I do want to recognize her service and her accomplishments with this project since 2020. It seems not long after we hired Dr. McNulty or brought her on board into the capacity that she joined, we pivoted right into a pandemic like the rest of the world. And I won't say we were in crisis mode, but we were in problem solving mode. And I can't thank Dr. McNulty enough for the leadership she showed during that time, the stability she brought to the district, and really the cool approach that she was able to bring to keep everyone moving in the same direction, continuing to push the academic program forward. We were able to deploy at that time one-to-one computing to every student in the midst of a stay-home order. able to continue to deliver meals to students every day using the bus system, and able to navigate virtual instruction for more than a year as we worked our way back from COVID and everyone became more comfortable returning to school. So I'm very thankful for her leadership during that period. It cannot be understated, her contributions in that time period. And then beyond that, Dr. McNulty really contributed in a lot of important ways to the work that has been done in Gary. She was able to lengthen the school day by an hour, which will contribute substantially to student education in Gary. She was able to oversee the implementation and the execution of the capital plan and a number of millions of dollars of investments in the buildings and facilities for Gary, much needed investments, eliminated leaky roofs, returned Gary really to a level of operation that I think is admirable and creates a fantastic foundation for it to continue to grow on. And at the same time, I don't want to forget the fact that she also fought hard for teacher raises during that period of time and oversaw some of the first teacher raises that were implemented in Gary for Gary teachers in over a decade. And then beyond that, we can't forget that in the midst of that pandemic, she also led the charge on helping to secure a referendum in the community. She spent a lot of hours and a lot of time outside of her her professional job, educating people, working with community leaders, talking with everybody in the community to ensure that that referendum succeeded and put Gary Community Schools on the best footing financially to be able to move to where we sit today, which is on the precipice of turning the district back over to a non-state controlled board. And so very excited for those advancements and excited for the accomplishments that she has made. And I wish her well as she heads on to her next endeavor in higher education. We look forward to continuing to cross paths with her and working with her again in the future. And we will all benefit from the legacy that she has left. Any other board members have questions or comments that they would like to make?
Well said.
Thank you. Great. Well, Mavis and Mike, welcome to the team. We didn't want to bother you with coming down for such a short meeting today, and so please, use the time for the kids in Gary, and we'll see you next time. All right. Up next, we have a couple authorizations from Mr. Miller that have contract he's approved since our last meeting. We have a contract with Smeckens and a contract with Curriculum Associates.
Thank you. I think it's Smeekins, actually.
Smeekins.
That's about that.
What's up, that?
The Smeekins is already working with the district closely, providing professional development in all school buildings. This is a contract specifically for this summer to focus on early literacy and help teachers to fill in those gaps for students are behind speed. That is funded partially by a school improvement grant and partially from EXTRA 3. The total amount is $99,594. And then the second one is Curriculum Associates. You're familiar with them. They provide the iReady formative assessment service. And so that this is just a re-upping of that same vendor for iReady for the next school year, 23-24. So the total cost, I'm sorry, that is funded also partially from two different sources, one from the formative assessment grant from DOE as well, and also Title I. Total cost is $123,566.
Any questions regarding these contracts? All right, thank you. Next, we have the consideration of a contract for this board. It is the social studies curriculum. We have Ms. Nelson here to present that contract to us. So, Ms. Nelson.
Yes, we're excited to move on a new social studies curriculum for K-12. We went through an adoption process that involved an RFP, a team that came together from across the district, different grade levels and buildings, to rate those vendors and get them to a smaller list through vetting process in the buildings, so that we could ultimately select Savas for K through 5 and Broad 6 through 12. That's funded through ESSER 3.
Questions regarding this, this contract? I know there was, maybe Pete or Tracy, you can speak to this. I know there was some question because of the changes during the past legislative session regarding curriculum. And my understanding is that we expect this curriculum will be compliant with those new requirements that we expect to be implemented in the future.
Yeah, this was on the preliminary agenda for last meeting. And right about the time the legislature passed, I think it's 1558 regarding science degree. So we were just making absolutely sure that we weren't going afoul of the statute there, and confirm with DOE in the past month that there's no risk of this being unapproved for the next school year.
All right. Fair motion?
I move that we accept the contracts as presented for SABs. Is it SABs?
Savas.
And Cross.
CBB is.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion is adopted. Contract is approved. Thank you. Up next, we have consideration of a few lingering contract benchmarks with MGT. These relate back really to 2 contract years ago. That was by design. They required data that we didn't yet have until recently. And so we have a few here to be presented. Mr. Milton.
So these really could have been dealt with a year ago. Let me try to explain the delay. There were 3 benchmarks in the previous contract. 2 dealt with the career center, and when I examined the wording, it's pretty similar. I couldn't quite tell what was intended, and so I had to do some research with some of Courtney's notes, and just took some time to work through that. The other was regarding the school improvement fund, and the first submission from MDT, we just challenged for a couple of additional details they did provide. And I had asked them to hold up just so we could kind of deal with these all at once after the recent audit was completed. As it turned out, none of those benchmarks for that audit reached, although the audit was clean. There was just some internal control issues that didn't quite reach the standard there. And so that was the reason for the delay. And so now I present to you these are from the previous contract. No, it's the 2020-2021 school year. So the documentation you see here, the one for there's 2 for the career center. And the difference between the 2 that was intended was one was just for the overall enrollment, and then the other was for overall enrollment excluding introductory courses. So ones that were moving towards a credential. And so that's why you see the two different sets of numbers. Both of them increased by 5%, which what the standard was. So my recommendation would be for both the person and ones to be accepted and awarded. The second one there in the middle is regarding the school improvement fund, 1065. And there were 2 tests we met to this benchmark. One was that at that point in time, at June 30th, 2021, that the plan had been implemented. And then the second was that a control document was in place to track. So I didn't provide a control document because you all see those every month, so you know that's been that. And there's some other documentation here to show what the plan had been and where the plan was at that date. I think there's one project that was not implemented due to factors beyond their control, but that those things that are addressed. And there was a difficult one done that was not that was ahead of time frame. So I would also recommend that benchmark be worked.
Questions regarding these benchmarks? Contract?
We're talking about a total of 100,000.
Correct.
That's right.
You need a motion, Mr. Chairman.
There's no other discussion? I would entertain one.
I would move that we accept the request for the recommendation of Director Miller for the remunerations of $100,000 total for the three benchmarks. Thank you. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is adopted. Thank you. Up next, this is really a new item of business for this board, although not really new to the DUAB process. I'll let Mr. Miller speak about this more, but it relates to some cleanup legislation that actually Representative Thompson introduced for us during session that really brought some cohesiveness between some of the different work that DUAB is doing.
Let me try to explain the excessive education fund transfer process. This is something that had been cleaned by the fiscal quality indicators committee. If you recall, it was a group made up of many of the same agencies that are on this board. When that was first created a few years ago, it was given two charges. One was to develop the metrics for the indicator dashboard, which is now essentially complete and it's refreshed every year. And then was to govern this process. Just in the interest of efficiency, it seemed like we could just say mission accomplished for that board, data accomplished the dashboard, and this small little process in terms of overseeing the excessive transfer process could be handled by this group without calling a new body. So as a part of Senate Bill 327, just kind of did a search for the place for the words fiscal indicators committee and put DUAB. So to be clear, there's no vote required for this group. This is really a process that is administered by the Department of Education. And so this body's role is just advice and consent regarding the process. The legislature sends tuition support dollars to schools that's placed in the education fund. The intent is for those dollars to be spent in the classroom. Yet there's no hard and fast rule governing how much of that has to be spent in the classroom. So the target percentage is 85%. So it's hoped that of the education dollars, 85% spent in education. It's okay to transfer money into operations to pay for overhead and that type of other non-education expenses. But if it is over 50%, let's just say we want to know that. You need to come to the state. And so DOE calculates that percentage on a calendar year basis. On April 1st, there were 9 schools that DOE notified that said for calendar year 2022 that according to the Form 9 data that was submitted, 50% and requests a response that explains why that happened. And then secondly, what their plans are to get under 15% for the following year. So there were total 9 schools that were calculated over 50%. That level now on April 1st, those schools all have 90 days to respond. So we're still within the window. Not all have responded, but 4 have. And statute indicates the public we're to acknowledge those that have responded. Those 4 are Camden, Munster, Peru, and Salem. And so those responses were provided to the board prior to the meeting. And again, this is an assessment made jointly between DOE and DUAB. And so looking at those 4 responses, just kind of briefly explain what was provided from those schools. Camden was essentially just an accounting error that was that was easily fixed. So it had that been done properly at the time that they would have been under, and so that adjusting entry was made and further concerns. Munster was similar. That was more just a data entry error on the reporting that they had miscategorized the transfer. So if that had been done properly, they would have been under 50% as well. So for Peru, that was above the 50%. They attributed the additional cost there to building maintenance primarily, and they did outline a series of steps that they plan to get under that for 2023. And then Salem didn't really point to any one particular reason, other than just kind of ongoing challenges. They did indicate that they were aware and are working to get back under the calendar year. And so for all four of those, the recommendation is no further action required. I would point out that the next step, if there were actually a requirement, would be to ask those bodies to come before the board and give in-person presentation. So that's not necessary for these four. If any of the board disagrees, now times and make that suggestion, we can pass that along to DOE and they can decide whether to take an next step. They have 90 days from April 1st, which is June the 29th.
Okay.
So by the time of our next scheduled meeting, we would have all those responses.
Any other questions or comments about this process that is new for us?
Yeah, just one, Mr. Chairman. Is the 15% transfer out to any fund, or is it just a transfer from the education fund to the operations fund?
Great question. I believe this is operations. That's the typical
Okay,
where that would go.
because I noticed that most of it made it to the rainy day fund, and so therefore they felt like they didn't need to.
Yeah, that absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
It is just after cost.
okay. All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you for continuing this process. I do have one item, Mike and Mavis, since we still have you, a couple things, if I could ask you to provide next time at our meeting. They've come up a couple times, and I just think it's important for the community and for us. A breakdown of the graduates so maybe some historical look at how many graduates we have had and what buckets of degrees they fall in. I think that would be helpful to see. Maybe a brief overview of the training in diversity and equity and inclusion that we have at the district. Give us a perspective on what efforts are occurring there and what's happening there. And then also an update on the swimming pool. I know it's been a hot topic of conversation for many years. I know it's in the plan and it's a challenging project, but if we just provide an update on where that stands and maybe what the whether we think that would be completed or not, and what the obstacles are. I would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I do have one other item of new business. We have a member who is leaving us for what he thinks are greener pastures. He's mistaken, but we'll have to see about getting an IURC commissioner here on DUAB and deal with a lot of utility regulatory issues, and I'm looking forward to that perspective on the commission. Mr. Bennett has been nominated by the governor and appointed to serve as the next, one of the next most immediate commissioner for the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. Their gain is our loss. Mr. Bennett is a fantastic addition to that commission and very excited for him and the opportunity he brings there. He brings a wealth of information, not only about schools, but local government. In his work at the LGF, that agency has benefited greatly from his perspective and his experience. And I think he will bring that same perspective and experience to the IURC and propel them forward as well. And wish you the best as you embark on that new journey, and look forward to seeing you around, and we'll find a reason to get you back here at some point. Maybe we'll take over utilities or something.
Yes, but I hope not. But,
We don't really want to.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been an honor to serve with you and the members of this commission board. And I am going to miss my role here in the DLGF. But looking forward to a new challenge. So, but thank you and appreciate the recognition.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We have yet, we were Mr. Bennett's transition is currently planned for the end of June, so we will miss our next meeting. And then we're in the process of identifying the successor. So stay tuned for a new face on the board as we move forward. Is there any new business to come before the board today?
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, we will adjourn the public session and can reconvene in executive session. Thank you.
Thanks.